Barber Motorsports Vintage Museum and Barber Motorsports Park. One of the greatest places in Alabama. If you've never been here, shame on you, because it is fantastic. And we're lucky enough today to have Jeff Ray with us, the executive director of the museum and the park. So Jeff, thank you for having us today.
Well, thank you for being here. We enjoy it.
So when did this all start? Let's go back to the beginning.
Okay. Well, you want to go that far back?
Yeah, I do.
The collection started as a desire of George Barber, businessman here in Birmingham, and most people know him by his name on the milk carton. It was Barber Dairies.
Right.
But that wasn't his only business. He has a very diverse portfolio into real estate and everything. And in 1988, he decided he wanted to start a car collection. And the car collection started in a small warehouse on the south side of Birmingham. And the focus was just old cars that he liked. And the gentleman who was running the program for him at the time was a retired employee of the Barber Dairies. And he was a car enthusiast, but he's also a motorcycle enthusiast. Huh. And as the car collection started moving forward, Mr. Barber was looking around and realized that there's a lot of car collections out there. And if you're going to do something, why not do it the best? And if you're going to do the best car collection, you're already copying what someone else has done.
Right.
But Mr. Hooper, he suggested, so Mr. Barber, if you're interested in collecting something, why don't you look at motorcycles? The best motorcycle collections, there really hasn't been a unique collection developed. And you can put 6 motorcycles in the place of 1 car. So if you get into quantity, then this is a great idea as well. So the quest was on. We're going to start collecting motorcycles. We continued maintaining some cars in the collection, but the motorcycles kind of took off. And we went from 100 motorcycles to 200 motorcycles to 300 motorcycles. And you know, we as a team were asking, well, when do we stop? And Mr. Barber would say, well, when we get there. And we never knew what there was. So it's been an interesting ride with that. Part of the collection was getting ourselves out into the motorcycle community. So in 1991, we developed a vintage motorcycle racing program. Yeah. And we were able to take bikes from our collection, team members that worked in the program, and go do vintage racing with other vintage motorcycles. And
that's a circuit?
It is a circuit. There's a group called the American Historic Racing Motorcycle Association,
right.
And they run all over the country, and their first race of every year is at Daytona. Oh. So we actually race on the speedway there. Wow. So we showed up at Daytona with 2 bikes that the team had built, and a brand new van and a brand new team, and all these old guys that have been racing motorcycles for years looked at us and said, who are these folks? But we were able to go out and be very successful that weekend. We won both races we entered. Wow. So we automatically found ourselves in a position to have a big pair of shoes to fill. Not only did we win at Daytona, but we set ourselves up for a target. Now everybody was gunning for Barber.
Sure.
So we would go to the races and teams would show up, and it was a great competition. There was a lot of friendship in the competition.
Sure.
But we were able to develop our relationship with other collectors and other motorcycle enthusiasts. Right. And that kind of helped us spearhead where we went with this. And it was around 1994, the accountants got involved and suggested that the collection go into a foundation that would better sustain the foundation and give it some merit.
So you're a 501c3.
We are now a 501c3, and we had our residence on the south side of Birmingham at the 5th Avenue location, and it was great.
It was great. I remember going to that, and it was so exciting to see all these motorcycles. But this facility, let's talk about this facility.
Well, this facility is a result of the experience downtown. There's 2 things happened. When we first opened the collection to the public, it was mainly to adhere to the requirements of the IRS to get our right. 501c3. We really didn't have any clue of how many people would visit. Right. But the first year we opened, we were only open on Wednesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays, and had over 10,000 visitors come to the museum.
My goodness.
And it was kind of a shock.
Yeah.
And then right while we're still just trying to digest that shock, we get a phone call from the Guggenheim Museum in New York. And the Guggenheim, the curator there was looking to put together an exhibit of motorcycles in the Guggenheim. It was controversial at the time, but what the curator found was that it was very difficult to get someone to loan a motorcycle for a long period of time. You know, people say their motorcycles is part of their collection and their family, sure. And it's very difficult to get them to loan it for a long period of time. But when they contacted us, Mr. Barber recognized what this could be, so we were the largest lender to the art of the motorcycle in New York.
Kidding.
A very controversial show that took place in '98. Well, what was amazing about it was the show had record attendance. I think it was over 260,000 visitors over a 3-month period of time.
Yeah.
So we were impressed with that. You know, we were like, wow, you know, people are interested in motorcycles. And we went on to the Field Museum in Chicago that winter, and then the following year we went to Bilbao, Spain, and it set records at all 3 museums. So while we were in Spain, Mr. Barber's sitting at a table at dinner and says, we can do this at home. And my question was, what, have dinner? And he says, no, we can take our collection and we can create something for the city of Birmingham. And at the time, the Galleria Mall here in Birmingham was the largest tourist attraction in the city of Birmingham.
Right, it was.
And that's pretty impressive, but a mall being a tourist attraction was kind of awkward. So we set our goals into doing something for Birmingham. So we came back from Spain, we did a site search for a piece of property to be able to move the collection to. Mr. Barber's commitment was to build a unique building that would not overpower the collection, but it would complement the collection.
Yeah.
And he wanted it to be in the city of Birmingham and convenient access. So our site search brought us here to the property we're on today. We were looking for 40 acres and wound up with 800 acres.
Oh, gee, my goodness.
And the concept of building the racetrack evolved from finding a home for the museum.
Right.
Because the museum has its own restoration team. It's a very diverse collection. A lot of the bikes in the collection are competition machines, but we still needed a place to exercise the machines that we completed in our restoration.
Right.
So the whole thought process was we'll build a building, we'll build a test track out here in the woods in Birmingham, and we will have a living museum.
Now, how many floors are in the museum?
Well, the design carried us into the concept of a parking deck. So the initial building, which was built in 2003, has 5 floors with a full basement. And the full basement serves as our restoration facility, it serves as a meeting area, it also serves as a warehouse for the inventory that's not on display.
Right.
But the other 5 floors are split up like a parking deck, and we have bikes on exhibit there. 3 years ago, we did an 85,000 square foot expansion to this building. So we're now sitting at over 240,000 square feet of building, with about 185,000 of that dedicated to
Okay,
exhibits.
as we're sitting right now, I can look around, just looking around, and I see hundreds, maybe thousands, just from where I'm sitting, thousands of motorcycles. And each one of them has a definition of each particular motorcycle, which is fascinating. How many motorcycles do we have?
Okay, we have 1,000 motorcycles on display. We have another 600 in storage. And those in storage are either display ready or in queue to go through our restoration department to be display ready.
Okay, so the place where all the stuff is being built, you're putting them all together, the mechanics and all that, that's in the basement.
That is in the basement, that's correct.
Okay, then the elevator, how big are these elevators? They look like you could put 3 cars in them.
Well, we can actually. The original elevator to the building was basically built around it, and it came from experience. When we were working with the Bilbao Museum, we found that their elevator over there was too small for anything.
Yeah.
And whenever a large group of people came in, you had to take different trips on the same elevator to be able to go from floor to floor. And their freight elevator was really the only way to move a large object or move a large group of people.
Right.
Well, in museums, you sometimes have a large group of people.
Yeah.
So we elected to design a elevator, a passenger elevator that could serve as a freight elevator. It's 19 feet long and 9 feet wide, and you can move cars and trucks in it. So
I know.
we actually utilize it for that.
It's amazing. When you first get here for the first time, you're amazed when these elevator doors open up and there's a big giant room instead of an elevator. Okay, so how many cars do you have though? Because you still have cars.
Okay, we still have cars. Our main focus is the Lotus car marquee,
Okay.
and primarily the racing division of Lotus
Right.
cars, and we've got 54 Lotus cars. It's the largest collection of Lotus cars known to exist in the world. We're actually in the Guinness Book of World Records as the largest motorcycle collection and the largest Lotus collection.
Okay, now how far back do you go on the motorcycles? What year?
Okay.
How far back?
We have representations from around 1885 moving forward. You know, if you talk to historians in the motorcycle industry, there's a lot of debate on who built the first motorcycle.
Yeah, yeah.
Some people will tell you Harley Davidson did, which we know that that's not the case. But there were different bikes built. We had a Roper built in New York. We had a Michaud Perrault built in France, and we also had the Daimler, which was built in Germany. The Daimler was an internal combustion engine. It was a wood frame. We have a model of it because the actual motorcycle burned to the ground. But it was an internal combustion engine,
Yeah.
but it had 4 wheels on it, but it was called a motorcycle. Then we had the Michaud Perot, which was a two-wheel vehicle, but it had a steam generator on the back of it. So was it a real motor?
And you also have military, which is very fascinating. The military motorcycles that guys took information during World War II back and forth behind the line, not behind the lines, but through the lines basically, to get information from one battalion to the next.
Right. Well, the motorcycle evolved from basically the horse in the military.
Yeah.
You had the cavalry, and then in World War I, they found that the motorcycle was great as a dispatch or a messenger vehicle.
Sure, sure.
But by the time we got to World War II, the motorcycle had taken a different form. Not only was it used in dispatch and messaging, it was also used in transportation of munitions. They
Right.
had different configurations set up. The Allies were using motorcycles, and our enemies were using
Sure.
motorcycles as well. And it just became another tool in the arsenal. We're proud of our military. We're proud to represent military. Not only do we represent the U.S. military motorcycles, but we have motorcycles from militaries from other parts
Okay,
of the world.
during this pandemic, you guys just reopened.
That is correct.
So what are the hours now that you're open?
When we reopened, we kind of stalled our reopening. The minute we got the green light, we said, let's just wait and see. We opened 2 weeks ago, and we opened normal hours. We open at 10 in the morning, and we close at 6 in the evening right now. We open at noon on Sundays and close at 6. We have a lot of protocol in place to visit. And when you come in, we actually do a temperature check on our guests. We offer hand sanitizers, and we offer masks to our guests. We're in Jefferson County right now. We're under a mandatory mask order.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're a guest in the museum, the staff in the museum, as well as the
Right.
guests, are required to wear a mask. We have our sneeze guards in place. We do constant sanitizing. We have stepped up our housekeeping in the museum. Every handrail, every button in the elevator is cleaned at least twice a day. And we just encourage social distancing. The museum is laid out, and it is very, very supportive of social distancing. We don't have the blue line on the floor that you follow through the museum. You can pretty much enter the museum
Right.
and go anywhere you'd like to go. So it's very supportive of following social distancing. And our attendance, we have a maximum attendance capacity of the building is about 3,500, and we don't see near that on a normal day anyway.
Sure.
So it's a great location to come out and do a little meditating, take in some motorcycles, and do your social distancing.
Well, thank you so much for being with us today, Jeff. We appreciate it, and we invite everybody to come on out to the museum and the track, and they also have a Porsche school here if you want to give that a shot. But I'll tell you, it is one of the most exciting places to go to in the state of Alabama.